Earlier in an opening I gave this morning with regard to the Posse Comitatus Act, just to refresh my colleagues' memories, the Posse Comitatus statute is a criminal statute that states that it's a crime to use any part of the Army or Air Force to enforce the laws of the land unless authorized by Congress or the Constitution.
There is, in my judgment, it is absolutely clear that no law was violated, no action was taken that comes close to violating Posse Comitatus or any other law. General Huffman, do you agree with that?
Congressman, so far as the Army's involvement in this, I would say that is correct.
Yes, right here. Question about the Army Delta anti-terrorist team or any other military operational asset?
The question is, are we getting any help from the military?
From the Delta team specifically.
The question is, are we getting help from the Delta team? And we're not.
In mid-March 1993, I attended a senior executive staff meeting at CIA headquarters, and it involved senior agency management along with the liaison officers from the U.S. military, in particular from Delta Group. The briefing centered on Delta's operations in Waco, Texas.
This previously classified military document confirms the presence of Delta Force at Mount Carmel. With approval of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, an observer was deployed to the scene on March 21, 1993, accompanied by 3 other operators also characterized as observers.
One particular soldier was questioned by a member of the hearing and pressed and pressed. He did not want to reveal even the existence of Delta Force, and finally had to admit that they were present.
Originally, I was told that there was just going to be 1 or 2 Delta personnel there as observers, but during the briefing, it was mentioned that there was over 10 Delta operators at Waco, Texas, and they were not there merely as observers, but would be participating in any type of operational or tactical effort against the Branch Davidians.
My understanding is that in some way, the U.S. military, Delta Force, were advising the hostage rescue team from inside the tanks or inside the Brady fighting vehicles, or were present at the sniper posts to provide support or assistance. And those types of activities, to me, would mean forward deployed. They were not back at a conference room or table giving advice or saying you ought to think about this. They were out there working shoulder to shoulder with the HRT.
Approximately a year after the Waco incident, I was deployed overseas in Europe, and I had the chance to meet some of the Delta operators that I had been on previous assignments. They had told me on several different occasions during my meetings with them in Europe that not only were they forwardly deployed at Waco, Texas, but they were actually involved in a gunfight with the Branch Davidians.
When you see the individuals roll out from the tank and come around the sides and start shooting into the building, what they're doing, they're defending the vehicle. If HRT or Combat Applications Group, whoever was pulling the triggers, expected resistance, expected shots to be fired, then their moves on April 19th made tactical sense. But I did talk to some Combat Applications Group guys, and they did confirm that yes, portions of B Squadron were there pulling triggers.
There's no doubt in my mind that the flashes on the FLIR tape was fire from semi-automatic or automatic weapon fire being returned into the building. I mean, it's inconsistent to even think otherwise. There were people there on the ground with automatic weapons, and flashes such as that only come from one thing, and it comes from rifle barrels that are firing back into the building.
Their operators had penetrated the buildings on several occasions, planting surveillance devices, listening devices, sensors. And on one occasion, I believe it was April 17th, late 17th, early 18th, Koresh was actually within 6 feet of one of the operators, and they radioed back to the Tactical Operations Center for permission to grab him. Within minutes, the word came back from Justice Department, no, we already have a plan in place. That plan, of course, being what happened on April 19th.
To me, that would be an offensive gesture. When you enter someone's home, that's pretty offensive, and I would personally have a problem with that. I think that it violates everything that I've been taught, that you don't use the military against civilian personnel in this country.
What about other reports that the military Delta Force may have been involved in one way or another? Will you make an inquiry into that as well?
We will pursue any issue that is in question.
I will not let this become a show trial with law enforcement as the defendant. These Waco hearings must not degenerate into a kangaroo court. It is unfair for us today to look at what law enforcement did at Waco in a vacuum. And it is unfair to twist the facts, making law enforcement the villain and David Koresh, the lawbreaker, the victim.
David Koresh, you may not think he was innocent. The mothers and the fathers of the children, you may not think were innocent. But those 17 children that died here were truly innocent.
We had heard during the meeting various scenarios that they were going to use down in Waco, Texas to try to bring a speedy recovery or a speedy end to what was taking place down there. And at that time, gas was talked about. A couple other situations, non-lethal situations were talked about. And the primary concern around the table was a lot of the people a lot of the Branch Davidians that were inside that building were willing or did not want to end their lives in such a fashion, especially the 17 children that were down there.
Where's God sit? On the throne? Where's that at? Point. Where's God live? Is he going to save you? How come?
Well, people ask why we didn't let the children out. If they saw all that was happening and they were in there with their children, would they have sent them out to the animals outside that were shooting at them and doing all those terrible things? No.
Federal law enforcement officers obviously did make some tactical errors prior to and during this tragic incident, and I hope this body, somebody, holds them accountable. Please, I'm pleading with you, somebody out there in the federal government still screwed up big time, okay? But they didn't start this fire.
Based upon the ATF's arson investigation, accelerants were used at all points of origin of the fire.
There is no disagreement between us that this fire was intentionally started inside the compound by the people in there using flammable liquids as accelerants.
I don't remember who it was, but he was pouring this liquid on the floor. And Papa was saying, don't pour it inside, pour it outside.
It was clear to us from listening to those tapes that the government was going to be able to prove that the Davidians, at least some of the Davidians, had a plan, and that some of the Davidians were aware of this plan.
I'm sure that the FBI down there had a lot of fiber optics, audio, and visual equipment installed in the building there. I'm sure they knew exactly what the Branch Davidians' plans were, what their intentions were, if there was an attack against the building, such as a gas attack like that.
If they believed we were going to try to enter the compound, and the way the overhears sounded, like there was one comment, we're going to wait until they come in before we light this.
Why in the world would the FBI make the assault knowing that information? It borderlines on criminal misconduct for the FBI to make that assault when they knew that he was going to respond like that, particularly on the most windy day of the year.
The FBI claimed that it never used pyrotechnic CS rounds, munitions capable of starting a fire. However, in this footage made prior to the fire, two agents are seen firing projectiles from an M79 grenade launcher into the